let's talk about some of the stuff you just wrapped up with the BBQ Brawl with Bobby Flay. So what was that whole process like? Did they reach out to you? Did you sign up for something you saw online, or how did that work?
Yeah, it's funny. I'm fussing about not getting any attention anymore, and I just got off a Big Deal Food Network show. You know, I know. Yeah,
awesome.
it's a level of what you're used to. You know, and yeah. So the what happened there? I actually signed up to try to get on the Netflix one.
Okay.
With Melissa and Kevin Bledsoe. I can't think of the name of it, but I
know what you're talking
and
about.
they interviewed me, and they didn't need me. They didn't want me, so which is fine. But I interviewed as a cook. You know, I knew they didn't have any spots for me as a judge or anything, and it's fine. I didn't even think twice about it. But I got a call then out of the blue from the guy that runs the show, BBQ Brawl. He's been running these shows forever. I don't want to drop his name, but I've known him forever, and he'll call me every year and say, so who am I missing? You know, got anybody new? Who's out there that I'm not thinking about? And we'll have a half-hour conversation, and he's an old friend, and we'll, you know, chat and catch up a little bit and talk about this, and I'll throw some ideas out there. And actually, one of the girls, Andrea Nicholson, who's from Canada and was on BBQ Brawl, is a friend of mine from doing Fire Masters up there, that show. And he didn't know about her, which is rare anymore. So 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I would get this call, we would talk, and I might know somebody that he didn't anymore. These, you know, it's not that hard to find people, and they're making themselves out front. You know, it's not, there's no secrets anymore like that. Everybody's out there. But I did find Andrea, and we kicked some names around and stuff. And of course, the conversation always ends with me saying, "What about me? You know, can I be on the show this year?" And they're like,
"You got to sell yourself." That's awesome.
I said, well, we always pitch you, Ray. You know, we all know who you are. We know where to find you, and we always pitch you, but you know, there's no opportunities for judging or captain or anything this year. And I said, well, I would cook, you know. And he said, okay, well, you know, we'll throw that out there, but I don't think that's going to be a fit for this year. And, okay, good. Thanks for calling. Good to talk to you. Well, 15 minutes later, I get a text. Are you serious that you would cook? And I said, yeah, sure, I would cook. Why wouldn't I? What am I going to ruin my career? You know, it's what's the big deal? It sounded like fun to me. I haven't done one of those in a long time. And he said, well, you know, we just wouldn't think that you would want to cook versus being a judge or a captain. I said, hey, why wouldn't I? It sounds like fun to me. I would cook for sure. So then they you know, the way they put those shows together, it's a puzzle. So they want the, you know, X amount of these kind of people and these kind of people and who's a little bit different. It's not a bunch of old white guys anymore like it was in the beginning. Old white guys and Leanne would be. Yeah. That's how they would cast the show back in the old days. And so they said, well, you know, we have a spot for, you know, the seasoned old veteran kind of guy. I'm like, well, I kind of fit that role, you know. And I said, I'd love to do it. And so they came back and they said, yeah, you know, we're gonna do this. And I really appreciate it because, you know, they like to put new people on those shows. You know, they don't necessarily want people that've been. I've been going on the Food Network probably more than any of the barbecue guys because I didn't do Pitmasters, and that was like a conflict at the time. You couldn't do both, and then with Guy, I got on a bunch of shows with Guy. So anyway, I wasn't like an unknown entity to them. So they said yeah. So anyway, they put me on, and other than Hugh Magnum, I don't know if you know Hugh from Mighty Quins in New York. He's not as long in tooth as I am for sure, but he's not one of these young hotshot kids. The rest of them are all really people trying to make a name for themselves in the early middle of their culinary career, all there to really make some noise. And it was fun because so many of them, I mean, Logan Sandoval was a guy from California that I didn't know, and he was right next to me in the beginning, and we became friends. And Logan, I don't know how old he is. He's got to be in his 30s. If he is 30, I don't know. I'm not a very good judge of young people's ages, but Logan's got a big career ahead of himself, man. And he came there and made a bunch of attention, and everybody recognized him as this guy really knows how to cook, and it was so cool. But that clearly wasn't why I was there. And they couldn't have been nicer to me if you watched it at all. They just called me the legend. I was the '1 draft pick, which I'm not sure I was worthy of that because there's also running and jumping and carrying and stuff involved. And I'm 67 now compared to those 30-year-olds. I'm not sure that was a well-placed first pick. But anyway, I gave it a good run. I made it halfway through the show. I was happy to do that. And, man, I had a good time and met all them young people. And I said it at the end. They do all these interviews, and they didn't use it, but I said, I come here and I see this, and I'm proud of this because we were the guys that laid all the groundwork for this. We did all this. We created barbecue. I was saying this to someone the other day, one of my old friends, that, we were not cooks. We were not chefs. None of us went to culinary school. I was a truck driver. People had factory jobs and stuff, and we learned how to cook barbecue, and some of us morphed into chefs over the years. For me, when other chefs started calling me chef, I accepted it. But we're not that kind of chef. Like, you went to culinary school to learn those things. Well, these people are coming from the other direction. The people I'm cooking with there on BBQ Brawl all have been working in fancy restaurants for years, and now they're becoming barbecue guys. And it's a whole different way to come after it, and it's impressive. I mean, the food they were cooking is, I hate to admit it publicly, but I can't cook like that. Those guys were above and beyond anything I can do. But I had a great time. It was fun, and I learned a lot.
How was working with Bobby Flay? Was that a cool experience?
It really was, yeah. I didn't really know Bobby. I'd met him briefly, but I never really knew Bobby. And and he's right there in the middle of the show. I mean, he's at the next booth over, and he comes over and says hi, and you chat with him. And he knew who I was. It's not like we don't have a bunch of mutual friends. And but it was really cool because Bobby could have. It's Bobby's show. He owns the whole thing. So Bobby could have easily said, "Yeah, we don't really want that guy on the show." So I know Bobby's put his thumbs up about me when it came down to it. So that made me feel good.
Sure.
Bobby could say yes or no to pretty much anything that happens there. Sonny, who was my captain and is a doll. I'd never met Sonny before either. She was a doll. She dogged Bobby from the time they walked into the set at 8 in the morning till the time we went home at 8 at night. So a lot of it's for camera, a lot of it's not. She never let up. She threatened him that he better not buy a bespoke cat because he needs a new cat. All of a sudden, for some reason, she's dogging him for an hour to not buy a bespoke cat.
Oh my
gosh. Crazy stuff. Like, it was so funny. I mean, all day, nonstop. Bobby could easily say, we need to tone that down, or don't have her on the show next year. But he's obviously enjoying it, and he's seems to be in a great spot in his life as well. And when we got done, when I got booted off about halfway through, so what happens when they boot you off? They shuffle you away. Like, because they don't know if you're going to go nuts and try to kill everybody or at least yell at everybody. I'm sure it's happened over those shows. These guys have done a lot of reality shows, So they shuffle you off by this minivan, and you're going to get a ride home by yourself today. And they like take you over there to see if you're going to calm down, and then they want to interview you right away if you've calmed down. So I did. I was fine, So I'm over by the van, and Bobby comes over there specifically over to me and says, "Hey, thank you, Ray. Thanks for being on the show," and he goes on his way. He doesn't do that for everybody. So it made me feel really good that they, the respect and love they showed me. And then they did interview me because I wasn't going to stab anybody. I was good.
I have a ton of respect for Bobby Flay. What he's been able to do over his career is unbelievable. When he started way, way back in the day, you remember the grilling and chilling days?
Yeah.
And how he's developed. And I remember my dad used to give me a hard time, like, oh, Bobby Flay, like, he thought he was like a nothing. But man, as far as like cooking competitions in that TV setting, he's at the top of the list, man, because he's done so much of it. He's done it for years, decades.
And years. I mean, he started it way back, not the beginning of the Food Network, but boy, pretty early. And he's still there doing it, producing shows. I mean, it's really impressive. Yeah, it was really. I told him a story. Years ago, there was a show called Ready, Set, Cook. I think that's what it was called. There was a. Remember that show? They had stole the show from England. And it was a little competition cook, and he's on there with Emerald. And Emerald's at the height of his crazy Emerald popularity. And he's cooking against Bobby. And Emerald's, I don't know if he's drunk or he's cooked, but he can't figure out what to cook. They got ground meat, I think, and Emerald doesn't know what to cook. And Bobby's cooking away. He looks at Emerald and he goes, why don't you make like some meatball gumbo? And Emerald's like, oh, yeah, that's a great idea. So he makes meatball gumbo because he had no idea. It was so funny. Bobby bailed him out. And,
oh, my gosh.
And I told him that story, and he didn't remember it, but he thought it was pretty funny. Because when I made meatballs and grits at one point, and I told him, I said, yeah, it's just, I always think about that. Like, meatballs are always a viable option. But I always remember that story. I mean, Bobby goes way, and with Jack McDavid, I mean, I don't know how long ago that is. Jeez, I haven't seen Jack in 15 years, and it was old at that point. So, Bobby definitely is a legend on that channel. But he's still nice. I mean, he's doing, he's hanging out with guys like Michael Voltaggio and Sonny and Brooke. And these are all Bobby's old, but Bobby, I joked that he might have had me on the show so somebody'd be older than him. I think he's 59.
Right.
So he's older than all these people too. But yeah, that was really impressive.
Well, what a great experience. I've applied for all those type of shows, and they always have me back for like a second interview, a second phone call, and I figured that I'm just too white. They have too many. I don't fit in their demographic enough.
You do. So when we were doing it, if there was 12 spots, 10 of them would be whoever they were. We joke about like old white guys with beards, well, at least you don't have a beard these days. But back then 10 of the spots could be old white guys with beards. Well, they can't anymore, and rightfully so. It shouldn't be,
Right.
So there might be 2 slots for old white guys with beards, and if you don't get one of those 2 slots, you're out of luck. Where in our day we could be all old white guys with beards. we weren't that old then, but
yeah, no, it makes sense, and I've got so much on my plate right now.
Keep trying, though. You never know.
I mean, it'd be fun, like you said. It'd be fun. It would be fun. I for sure agree.